Welcome to Crayonic Virtual Booth. My name is Peter Kolarav, and I'm the CEO of a European cybersecurity startup behind the Biometric Keyvault, the first dedicated smart authenticator and digital identity wallet. Biometric Keyvault is a patented keychain-sized device with multiple biometric sensors that can verify your true identity securely with a maximum privacy and simplicity comparable to using car keys. It's powered by industry standards, so it already works with your smartphone and your computer. Already next month, we are launching our solution for the most vulnerable employees and executives in finance, so you can benefit from the highly secure and extremely easy to use multi-factor authentication.
Welcome to another episode of Cardano and Coffee, where we create conversations with the leaders, inventors, and members of the Cardano community. I'm Mustafa, the host of the show, and today our guest is Peter Kolarav. He's the CEO and founder of Crayonic. Crayonic creates a Keyvault, a digital identity wallet that is based on decentralized biometrics. And Crayonic received funding through Emurgo and their dLab accelerator program to develop decentralized applications and technologies for the decentralized world. I'm very pleased to have Peter on the show today to tell us about Crayonic and their invention. And thanks for coming on the show, Peter.
Thank you very much for having me.
Excellent. So before we get started, to those out there who are watching the show, if you like Cardano content and you want to keep up with all the developments of the Cardano ecosystem, then subscribe to this channel and like this video so that YouTube can recommend more videos about the Cardano ecosystem, just like this one. Now, let's get back to our guest, Peter. Peter, can you describe to us, tell us so far, how has your journey in the world of cybersecurity been unfolding so far?
Well, the journey has been pretty long by now, actually. I personally started, I would say, more than a decade ago, professionally about a decade ago, but I, for example, experienced first-hand phishing already in the early 90s, when it actually wasn't called phishing, but that's just something that got stuck with me. And a couple of decades later, I founded a company that actually has a mission. As part of the mission is to prevent or eliminate phishing attacks. But that's already down to the detail. I basically started in identity access management when I was employed about 10 years ago by a company in Slovakia, where I was part of a solution architecture team developing and deploying identity and access management solutions across different verticals, mostly in government and financial verticals. From then on, I kind of moved on towards a little bit of e-signing, and I have helped develop this kind of a unique solution for mobile, offline-based signing of electronic documents using biometric handwritten signature. So you would sign, let's say, on your mobile screen, just like you would sign on a paper, and the device would capture the biometrics of the signature, and that would be then comparable, for example, to paper handwritten signatures. From that point, I basically moved on my own, left the company and founded Crayonic. The first product of Crayonic was actually a device to capture handwritten biometrics. We call it Crayonic Pen. It's still around, still occasionally used. I actually still use it. It looks like this.
Oh, very nice. Can we get a little close-up of that?
Sure.
Yeah, I actually, it looks really interesting. I've seen some of the other devices on your website, and I've never seen anything like that before. So can you describe what that is?
So yeah, this was the first product. As I mentioned, it was called Crayonic Pen. Mm-hmm. And it came with a mobile app called Crayonic Paper. Mm-hmm. And what it basically allowed you was to sign a document on the top of the screen, just like you would sign a paper document, with the difference that the pen would actually try to recognize your handwriting or your handwritten signature. using some machine learning algorithms. Once it recognized you as the owner of the pen, then it would kind of certify that handwritten signature with a digital certificate, effectively a digital signature, that anybody could verify using, for example, Adobe Reader. So if I would sign it and I'd send you the document, you could open it in Adobe Reader, click on my signature and see, oh yeah, this is Peter Kolarav who signed the document. So it was also maybe a little bit early when we did this. It was 2015, 16, we started doing this, and very little bit of a niche market. So it never really kind of scaled out. It was tested with some financial institutions, but we never really kind of officially launched it on the market. It did allow us though to test a lot of functionality, algorithms, and machine learning around biometrics and cryptography combined, that then we ended up using a little bit later on with the product that you actually can see currently on our website that we know, that we call today Crayonic Keyvault, which looks more like this.
Mm. Yeah, I wasn't sure how big it was if looking at the photos, but yeah, it's about the size of your palm. Fits within.
It's about the size of a finger, let's say.
Yeah.
Or a key, maybe you could compare it to a car key or like a standard key, basically, just a little fatter.
So can you maybe describe some use cases for it?
Yes, so we actually pivoted towards this to get a little bit wider, I would say, market scale. So it wasn't focusing, it still has the feature of signing documents. That's maybe the weird shade. You can see, you can actually still use it with its little special tip to sign or to handwrite digits, for example. We use this as one of the biometric modalities to verify your identity. And that's really where the core concept or the core vision of Crayonic is basically protecting your identity, which usually these days comes down to private keys. So your private keys, just like you have for signing blockchain transactions, regardless of blockchain, basically, you are using those for authenticating today, for example, using the FIDO protocol, or for signing documents, like I mentioned, or even opening doors, or basically anywhere else where a secure identity has to be used. It comes down to private keys. And this is really what we are trying to do, is try to make this interface between private keys and a person like more human, or something that you don't have to know about any of this technology and be actually able to use it. So the person really should be able to use this just like they use car keys, click a button and the car opens. So that's kind of the usability level that we do want to achieve for all the transactions that require this type of digital identity based on private keys. Mm-hmm. So obviously I mentioned some of the use cases already of the Crayonic Keyvault. The number one we started with is passwordless authentication into basically a remote or local system. So it could be your PC, but it could be a website. This is based on different types of protocols. The most common one we use is FIDO. It's one of the newest protocols out there that finally big guys kind of agreed that could be implemented, that is implemented now in our devices, whether it's like a Windows PC or iPhone or Mac OS. You can use the Keyvault basically thanks to this protocol out of the box with these devices without installing anything, and it just kind of works. It lets you in, whether into the device or into a remote website using the continuation of this protocol called WebAuth. And so that's kind of our primary use case. And the reason really we started with passwordless and maybe not crypto is because we want to first kind of, I won't say test it out, but officially try it out on the enterprise users, which are a little bit, you can say, in between the crypto community user, that is more tech savvy and is willing to tolerate hardware wallets, let's say like Trezor on Ledger, and know the concept of private keys and seeds and hierarchical deterministic wallets and etc. And then the other spectrum of the users, which is the consumers, which have no clue about any of this. They just know, that they need to somehow authenticate, prove who they are, and prove to the other side that this is my key, or whatever, this is my transaction I want to sign. So the enterprise users are somewhere in between, and that's where we felt comfortable launching the product, and that's why the focus is actually on the passwordless authentication in the enterprise right now. But yeah, the idea is then eventually to scale it out to the more consumerish world, towards more crypto and the consumer users, to really bring them to crypto effectively.
Interesting. So where about in your journey did you come across Emurgo, IOHK, and Cardano, specifically with the dLab program that you guys, that's how I found you guys.
Yeah, so we basically entered a dLab, as you mentioned. I think it was in 2019, fall 2019. Yeah, it was it's a program that was launched by SOSV and Emurgo combined together. They decided, like, let's focus on this acceleration program for decentralized technologies around blockchain. Though we are not really just specifically blockchain, we do focus on the decentralized technologies like decentralized biometric authentication. This is very much applicable in the blockchain, but the specific use case wasn't, let's say, Cardano blockchain or any specific blockchain for that reason. But that's so we did get accepted into the dLab acceleration program, where we actually pivoted away. That was kind of our turning point, where we pivoted from the Crayonic pen and those little other concepts we had towards Keyvault. That's where the Keyvault was officially, I would say, introduced or thought of, and the journey started there. Yeah, one of the people that guided us from Emurgo or from Cardano was Nico Arkeros, who was CTO of Emurgo at the time, and I actually still owe him something now. I realized that I promised him one white paper I didn't send him. That was specifically on the idea of signing peer-to-peer transaction without the infrastructure, so you could maybe use a Keyvault to Keyvault and transfer crypto that way. That was one of the concepts that we are trying to develop also for the blockchain community. But those are mostly.
Do you mind sharing the amount of funding that was received from Emurgo, or is that private?
That's a good question. I think the standard in dLab, there was some standardized amount, but I'm not sure if it was like standardized across, the whole dLab. I would say all of the companies inside the dLab. So I'm not quite sure actually if I can disclose this, but.
Well, let me ask you this: if you had more funding, how would that money be used in your case?
Yeah, the funding wasn't like it was definitely pre-seed amount, so it wasn't some really large amount, large funding.
Yeah.
So we later raised a proper seed amount funding. This was actually already without Emurgo at the time, because they had at that time some policy of not something, I'm not sure what, but yeah, I mean, obviously more funding would allow obviously different type of maybe use cases. Like right now we are looking into potential use case in actually signing transactions on blockchain, specifically for Cardano blockchain. This would require us to kind of a little bit not pivot, but basically to build additional small team to allow us to do this, because it's not that simple as it sounds. Though we are very close to it, it's still a different market, different approach to distributing in this market and talking to the end users there. Very different than dealing with the enterprises. So I think maybe if the funding would be, let's say, bigger or more money, we could probably do this much easier, or it will be possible.
So let me ask you about the industry in general. So who or what might be some of the biggest threats in cybersecurity right now that we are that we or you strive to defend against?
Yeah, as I mentioned, one of the biggest ones is known as phishing. This is very classic attack vector where basically end user is spoofed to enter their credentials, which is mostly static password, but it could be also one-time password. So maybe the authenticators that generate those one-time codes, or the tokens that generate one-time codes, or SMSs, etc. Anything basically that's entered by user on the website, for example, can be easily phished today. It's really a no-brainer to do that. Especially the spear phishing is very dangerous because this has come close to me. I know that if they can come close to that, I'm spoofed almost, that I believe that I'm looking at the site that I think I'm looking at, then for an ordinary user, it's almost, I would say, fatal. They cannot prevent it. You basically are relying on your eyes verifying maybe a URL or a one character at the URL that's like impossible to determine if this is correct site or not. So usually happily give away all of your credentials to an attacker, and it's a very successful attack vector today. It's very popular, and yeah, it causes actually a lot of damages. I believe Microsoft is the one who evaluated this to be like $1 million every minute lost thanks to these attacks. This is like ridiculously high, and this is really a major problem. The solution is actually not that difficult these days. It's totally possible to build unfishable authentication, even one without password. So much more usable authentication. As I mentioned, FIDO is a big step up in this direction, and hopefully this will gain some traction that it needs. But yeah, passwords are definitely no-go, and this goes not just for static passwords, but also one-time passwords. So those codes that you get, from apps and SMSs. So that's our focus, is to replace these credentials, these phishable credentials, with a simple piece of technology. I know most people ask us maybe like, why not use a phone, for example? Yes, you can use a phone, and in many cases it's good enough. We focus on the cases where it's not good enough. That's usually where the security needs to be at a different level than a smartphone can offer, or where smartphones cannot be used, for example, in healthcare verticals or government, or anywhere where you cannot just pull out your personal phone. Even managed company device is not usable for, let's say, for speed of authentication, where you need a really fast multi-factor authentication into the system, whether it's physical, logical access. So that's basically kind of our focus right now, and that's the market we are moving around now.
Yeah, it's this whole concept of cybersecurity. It's a very important one, especially what's happening right now in current events. This year, there had been a Solarwinds attack. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, we do look at most of major attacks, even the ones that are not so major, and study them and see like how these happen. And they could be, if they're not phishing attacks, they could be still like password spraying attacks, where you kind of trying different passwords that you collected over the years. There's this saying, like, if you forgot your password, just go look it up on a dark web, and that's pretty much true. All our passwords are pretty much there. So these have to be eliminated. All of these attacks usually start with a simple password that has been just kind of cracked or guessed, or phishing. Even I think the Colonial Pipeline attack, that was also a password, right? They're missing. Even recently, there was another one. Now I can't think of the company, but most of these attacks really are around weak passwords or phished credentials. So it's a big problem, and the thing is, it can be solved, and it can be solved now. It's just people have to do something about it. It just doesn't solve itself. So.
Yeah, now I think it's coming into the hands of the government. I believe that the Biden administration came out and they said that they're going to increase their jurisdiction when it comes to crypto because of ransomware, because of the facilitation of the use of ransomware to pay crypto to use crypto to pay for ransomware attacks. So this gives the government sort of an excuse to enter into the space of regulation. How is the government, in your opinion, going to play a role in cybersecurity moving into the future?
I mean, obviously, it can be good and bad. The good part is that the government can set the standard, or like the minimum bar that everybody should meet. This goes for all kinds of cybersecurity measures, I would say. Obviously, one of the easiest one is to make multi-factor or non-phishable multi-factor authentication compulsory. Like, if you don't meet that bar, then you should not be probably dealing with government, at least. You know, I think, and I think this has been stated. I've seen this already signed somewhere by the Biden administration as it's not even a recommendation, it's kind of a must-have, for example, for a supplier to a government to meet this standard. And yeah, so this is the good part that they can do. Obviously, the bad part is maybe that trying to maybe go after crypto being the payment, which is already the cause, you know, and then trying to basically interfere at that level by, you know, maybe I don't know, I won't say prohibiting crypto, but basically touching up on this subject at all, you know, that this should not be where the government should be making any moves. But yeah, I mean, setting the minimum standard for everyone, that I think that's maybe a must, you know, like that has to happen, because people are in general lazy, and especially in cybersecurity, you don't necessarily go the extra mile and spend extra money to make this extra secure. Okay, you're a cryptocurrency exchanger, Coinbase or somebody, you lose big money. And even to them, actually, it happened not too long ago where a lot of their clients were phished. And this should be, I think this is kind of mind-blowing, you know, that you are at that level, you are really dealing with funds that you cannot track anymore once they're in crypto, you know, then you should not have a phishable authentication at all, you know, available to any user, no matter whether they have $1 on the account or a million, but this should not be the case. So maybe if just this is set, you know, as a standard from cryptocurrency exchanges to banks to you know, government institutions, then everybody else will follow that, you know, that level, you know, that minimum bar, that this has to happen.
Yeah. Well, I definitely think that $1 million a minute is too much to be losing. How do you measure success as a cybersecurity company?
Well, that's a tough one. Well, for us, as just like for any other company, it's really revenue. But getting to the traction in the enterprise is not, is kind of a long journey. You know, you have to build a trust. The product that we are building is very difficult to get off the ground. It's not something that you can launch as an MVP and just break things. This does not work.
Right.
You cannot break somebody's infrastructure. This has to be trusted, ideally certified, proven, and I ideally recommended to the client by another client. That's the only way how you get traction in this business. So it's really difficult, obviously, for us to get to that. But the success will come down to traction.
Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't know very much about your product until I started researching it, and I'm still learning about it. But it's something that I personally do take. Like, I would probably be one of your customers, right? But it's there are, like, a lot of people have Ledger, and a lot of people have these, right? It's everybody knows what that is. And it's okay, it's easy for me to just go on Amazon and just, because I don't really need to do, but I think once the adoption starts to increase, there'll be more need for products that you create. And I think the Cardano community will appreciate that. I think I would probably be one of your customers, and I believe that the Cardano community will certainly see the value in that. But I think my job here is to sort of bring awareness to the different things that are happening, and especially with security. People who are big investors are probably going to be, especially crypto investors, are going to be interested in hearing what you have to say. So I'm going to be pushing this out to the Cardano community, and I'll be linking in the description to your website so people in the community can find out more, because I think it's important.
Thank you.
So you mentioned the you're the creator of, the inventor of these products, which I think are very original. How much time do you spend on brainstorming ideas and solutions to problems?
I would say almost continuously. Though obviously I have a lot of other tasks I have to do. A lot of it now, unfortunately, is administrative task. Once I guess you do startup and you do CEO, you do everything from cleaning to to receipts and hiring people. And there's so if I have nothing, if I've done all that job, then I really try to see how this can go forward in different directions. How this could help people from, really from authenticating to, overall internet, let's say any site, any system, but also specifically then to blockchain or cryptocurrencies even. One of the ideas that I'm trying to polish now, as I mentioned, that I owe the white paper to Nico, is how you, for example, how you transfer cryptocurrency from like one peer to another peer in a very secure manner without the infrastructure. So once you make it that simple, I think there will be a much bigger uptake in cryptocurrency use or blockchain use overall. If you can make it really simple for an ordinary person to do a transaction without knowing what the private keys are, seeds are, or any of this blockchain stuff. Terminology.
So you're constantly thinking of solutions to the problems that are coming up every single day. Does inventing new technology, does it energize you, or does it exhaust you?
No, I think it definitely energizes me, and not just me, but all the coworkers that are here with me, not right now, but usually, and when we discuss this, we would definitely would like to do a lot more than we are currently capable of doing, executing. We have to focus now on, finishing, say the one path of the product and closing it and selling it, and then opening up the whole can of worms on the other features that we have planned and we have on the roadmap and we brainstormed. There is a lot more actually ahead of us than we have done. So it's really, right now it's coming down to resources. We're a little bit limited to how much resources we can, how much we can spend really on these features and different roadmap threads, I would say. But there is, it continuously evolves, and new things pop up, I would say, almost every day.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting. So what was, so how many iterations of the, say, for example, the Crayonic pen did you come up with? And how many iterations of the Crayonic biometric device did you come up with?
So so these are all biometric devices. The Crayonic pen was purely handwritten signature recognition. So that was kind of what we call behavioral biometrics. We do like the combination of both. So we like that, let's say, fingerprint is the simple one, people know how to use it, but it gets you to that level 1 security. But if we can step it up for bigger transactions with, let's say, voice biometrics, so you can say your PIN code or a password, or even handwrite a PIN code or a password or signature. And this is actually one of the kind of the terms that we coin, is this proof of free will that only comes in the behavioral biometrics. So you can kind of force me, to put a finger, or you can kind of fake the fingerprint. If you have a Face ID, that's really easy. You take the phone, I point it at your face, I unlock the phone. This is nothing that you wanted to authenticate, but I can make you do that easily. Obviously, handwritten signature or even a PIN code or any kind of passcode is pretty much impossible to force. Mostly because it kind of you have really part of yourself in it. If you are nervous, it doesn't usually work. So it's something you have to focus. You want to do this with the transaction. You have to be in it, and only then it accepts it. So I think it's the whole cooler area of biometrics in this kind of behavioral biometrics that we are trying to play with, and it's really. I would say the next step up of going from like simple fingerprint recognized transaction to really proved with a proof of free will, let's say. But yeah, the number of iterations, I mean, a lot. We've done a lot of iterations from the pen. I mean, if I would be ready, I guess I could show you some other older devices, what they look like. And unfortunately, it's very time consuming, because if you make hardware and even cybersecurity hardware, the iterations are very slow. You have to, it may take months, when you do one and another iteration, and then you have to do, 15 or 20 of them. So effectively, we've done 2 or 3 products, and we've been around for 4 years now. So yeah, it's very slow, and it's not obviously it's resource draining, it's expensive, but luckily we do try to do this kind of locally with people who are very excited about it, and we can do this for, let's say, I would say less money than if you would be sitting, let's say, in Silicon Valley somewhere. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's it. Yeah.
You must be very driven and passionate to do what you do. What's the most challenging component of building what you build?
I think it's combining everything together. I mean, we are talking about applied cryptography, combining it with biometrics. That's also not easy. We want to use biometrics also for key recovery and things that it's not usually used for. So like multi-party computing combined with biometrics. So yeah, I mean, and then there's other areas, of course. I mean, if we are using the product, let's say in the passwordless authentication, you have to know a lot of protocols. So whether it's the low-level protocols like Bluetooth, NFC, USB to protocols that actually sit on top of it, like the FIDO or PIV, etc. You have to know. You have to know a lot about, for example, identity access management, which is a field on its own. And then you have to combine it, because we obviously don't do just hardware. We have to usually combine with its software. So we develop management gateway for the key vaults, where you can manage them in the enterprise setting. You can set security policies, for example, on them, or do the recovery and backup, like that kind of answers some question to people, like what happens if I lose it or when it's destroyed. So combining, this whole infrastructure, this whole solution, or making it a solution, I would say it's difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I think we are just maybe doing too much, or maybe it's just, I don't know, some kind of masochism, or I don't know, like trying to do it the hard way. But there is many other things we could do, which are easier and probably make a lot more money than actually banging our heads against these hard problems, which I guess need to be solved. Somebody has to do it, and so that's, I mean, we like to do this.
Yeah, no,
for some other reason.
That's that's the thing about it. You're a CEO, you're a founder, you're an inventor. These things are difficult. These aren't easy jobs to do. That's why these people in these positions are generally compensated more, because you're dealing with all this complexity and pain of creating something. Like, nobody else is going to do it. So who else is going to do it, right? If you have the vision and the drive and the will and the power and the mind to be able to do that, then we appreciate you creating these inventions for us, and we hope that you continue to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. What are some of the most important publications that a CEO in a cybersecurity company would like to subscribe to?
Publications. If you mean like the paper publications, the classic, or
it could be anything from journals, newspapers, magazines, books, academic papers, maybe something that only that a CEO of a cybersecurity company would be interested in reading. What are some things?
Well, one of the first one I started with was this classic hacker magazine called 2600. I think I still am subscribed to that, and I get it on my Kindle. This is really just a hacker magazine, I would say, like hardcore. I would say the first one. Obviously, I spend a lot of time on Hacker News too. So then I have this kind of a feed that already is optimized by Google, that feeds me articles from all different types of media, I would say, that deal with hacking, cybersecurity, and and cryptography, obviously. So it's, I would say, I don't have, like, besides maybe Hacker News and the magazine I mentioned, I don't have any other specific ones that
no, I think that's good, because people are familiar with those. I mean, I'm familiar with Hacker News, but I definitely need to go back and keep up with it. I haven't been keeping up with that, but it's good to know what kind of material you like to consume as a CEO of a cybersecurity company. How do you balance the exchange between customer feedback and innovating your product?
Yes, that's a very important point. First of all, you have to have customers to to get a lot of good feedback. So right now we have, like, let's say, POCs and the first clients, but in the enterprise setting, you may get like stronger feedback from one client that kind of overrules the feedback from others, and then you tend to, like, maybe fix something that this one client wants, but then you realize maybe that's not really what everybody else wants. So in the enterprise setup, it's difficult, though. I have not done much of the retail or consumer feedback, so we didn't sell really to consumer yet, and we are not planning just yet. So I imagine it could be similar there, that you may hear usually feedback from the people who are allowed and who have their opinions said on what it should do, what it shouldn't do. So it's very difficult. I think the difficult part is to filter it out and to kind of, like, say, like, okay, yes, this has come up, a few times. This has come up once, and even though it was loud, it's maybe not something that should be focused on immediately. So really filtering the feedback is very important, and making sure that we don't implement something just because somebody loud is pushing us to do it, and maybe because they pay the most, or so you have to. That is the toughest part, I would say.
Yeah, it sounds like a challenge to get quality feedback and then iterate or innovate based on what you're doing. And when you're dealing with hardware, it's not that quick to do it like the way with software is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's also, we don't necessarily want to have it even updatable, so you don't kind of do the firmware update, especially for a high-end security product, though it's something that maybe a client can say like, okay, I want to have it updatable. But even if it's updatable firmware, you can see this on Trezor and Ledger. If you're using any of these, it's not trivial, like not everybody can do this and know how to do this. So it's even more difficult if you cannot do it in any other way besides like replacing a device, so that's what makes it extra hard. And you have to get it right the first time. You have to ship it. It's kind of ship and forget, and then kind of behaves in its own way, and works and has to work. I remember I had this experience before when I was developing video games, shipping like a Game Boy title out, on the ROM. It's nothing else you can do. It's gone. It's out there, and it either works or it doesn't. So, and if it doesn't, then yeah, that's a big problem. I mean, you have to do a lot of testing before you ship it, but it's this commitment when you get it out that you're leaving it and it's gone, and now it better works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I say about my Apple products when I get them. They do work well though. They do work well. I can't say the same for every product out there though.
No, and that's actually one very nice thing is that what Apple does, and what we can do is we are developing the hardware and software on top of it, and the whole basically ecosystem around it, the solution. So we have it under control, and that's what makes it a lot more usable than if you have really an operating system from one provider and hardware from another one, and maybe application for a third one, and it may not play so nice together than if one party does it. And in security, I think it's especially important that we have the supply chain from the little parts all the way to the complete solution under full control. So that's really, we develop the devices, we manufacture them locally here. So really the end product is kind of 100%, secure and working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the beauty of it. I actually made that exact same point. Last week I had an interview with Ryan Morrison, who's creating a DeFi protocol for Cardano, and we talked about the same thing. I was asking about how the Cardano ecosystem is more like an Apple ecosystem, where they sort of create everything under one umbrella versus Microsoft or Windows or something like that, or they're creating everything disparately, and
Yes.
you get a better result. But like what you said before, the hardest part is putting it all together. And I think that's really what makes like a company like Apple stand apart, is that they've mastered putting things together in a way that's just, it works like like a beautiful orchestra.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think that's it's great what you do. So let me cut for a second here because I want to look at the questions list that I have. So my next question is, do you strive for originality in your designs, or do you prefer more conventional solutions?
Well, that depends on what designs are we talking about.
Well,
in a crypto, you should not design, specifically some cryptographic algorithms. So you have to use something that's kind of been proven. On the other hand, in the overall application or how you apply it, you do want to have a unique design, whether it's like how we approach the combination of cryptography and biometrics, or whether it's the hardware design, or whether it's like the UI, the whole experience. So it's really in different levels. You approach one with traditional, or the other one with the unique part.
Mm-hmm. How did you come up with the name Crayonic?
That's a tough one. Actually, I remember when the very first prototype of the pen came out, it was kind of 3D printed, this really big stick, you know, and it had the shape of a crayon. And I was like, oh, this looks like big crayon that I'm drawing with. And somehow, I guess when we were trying to come up with a company name, or I was trying to come up with a name, then I was just thinking like, okay, it's something to do with a crayon.
Yeah.
And the Crayonic popped up somehow.
It's a good name. It has a good sound to it. And it's easy to remember.
It's unique, so it's easily something that you can easily Google. And I also remember this very first supercomputer was called Cray, and I was always admiring it when I was a kid. Like, oh, there was this supercomputer called Cray. It was huge. Now this, you know, think about it, the power that's inside these tools is like way beyond that supercomputer. You know, we execute multiple machine learning and digital processing algorithms on it that were unthinkable just years ago, even on servers, you know, and now we are doing it on an embedded system on your fingertips with a battery powered device, you know. So that was that also had something to do with the name, I think, you know, like we tried to do the Cray on IC.
So what about being in the cybersecurity industry? Do you feel most strongly, let me rephrase this question. What about cybersecurity caused you to feel strongly about being involved with it?
I think I was always a little bit involved with it, though I wasn't always working in it. As I mentioned, I started my career actually in video games, and I believe after even the first startup I have done wasn't even wasn't a cybersecurity, so it was kind of always kind of in the back of my mind until maybe the like I would say first job in the little bit more corporate or the enterprise world pushed me into it, like, oh, there is this identity access management problems, somebody should take care of it, maybe you could. And so I was like, oh yeah, it's like something that I always had in the back that I could look at, but I never had the opportunity. And so I professionally switched to it. But I always liked, you know, I was, I don't want to say hacker, but I would say I did execute one of the first phishing attacks probably in 95 or 94. And it was successful. It was amazing, you know, like, oh yeah, you can really do this. You know, that was my introduction to the internet. I remember when I arrived at the university and there was this guy who told me, okay, this is how internet works. This is the email. This is telnet. And now I show you the cool things, that this is how the protocol is SMTP, and this is how you can fake email, and I can send you an email from White House, and this is how it works. And he just like, that was the introduction one day. The next day I was receiving an email from White House, and I knew how to do this. So I was like, oh wow, that was easy transition, you know, like from 0 to 100, like, okay. And then it just kind of kept going, you know. I was always playing with the technology and see how I could mess with it and hack around, and always had this like the cybersecurity part was always there, you know. Like somebody asked me, like, oh, maybe there could be an online casino, for example. Online casino, first thing it needs is some kind of a secure, you know, protocol communicating between client and server. And that's how I got in my introduction into digital signatures and RSA, you know, just by programming it in 90s when Java came out, and we needed to build a casino, and this, you know, it needed to be secure, obviously. So it was always kind of there, but professionally I started last 10 years officially, I would say, with my work.
Excellent. So that's a great little background about you there. What are, besides the products that you create, which I think are beautiful products, well engineered, I haven't used them yet, so I'm sure they're very secure. But what are your favorite underappreciated cybersecurity products or applications that are out there right now?
Underappreciated applications. Well, a lot of there is many things that people are not aware of that are just critical to our lives, basically, on the internet. One simple piece of technology, called digital signature is like people have never heard of it. Most people have never heard of it, but without it, effectively, we could not do almost anything on the internet these days. I mean, there'll be no online banking. There'll be probably no Zoom calls because anybody could jump in here. Anything that has to do with securing the transport between two parties, whether it's the client and server or client to client, it starts with this concept of digital signature, where two parties have to introduce each other in kind of a zero knowledge proof way, and digital signature was the first application of this technology. I know it's a piece of cryptography. Obviously, without it, the blockchain would not exist either. And yeah, many people don't know that there's this one simple, okay, it's one algorithm or one type of algorithms that makes everything that we take for granted possible. I mean, of course, our technology, but I really mean anything on the internet, would not be possible without it. And it's actually under a big threat these days. Technically, the digital signature algorithms that we are using are not quantum proof, and given looking at the quantum technology or quantum computers technology is the way it's moving forward in a pretty fast way, actually. It is possible that within a decade or so we could have enough power, enough quantum bits working to crack the digital signatures. And when that happens, you will realize how critical these things are, how easily they could break the whole infrastructure. So if I would have to pick one technology that is, like, I would say, underappreciated, but like people don't know about, maybe, or generic public doesn't know about, is the digital signature.
Digital signature, yeah. Totally agree with you on that. Very, very underappreciated. Most people don't know that it's underlying in everything that they do on the internet, yet it's like very foundational. If you had a chance to be on global television and you had the attention of everyone in the world for 30 seconds, what message would you make sure that everybody knew?
I have to say, kill the passwords.
Great. Yeah, no, I think that's, yeah. Kill the passwords. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they should not be around anymore. There's no point for them to be around. We have the technology for them to be not around, so we just have to do it. And if everybody do a little bit, then we kill them, and that will turn out to be a lot safer cyber world. Yeah,
it's a something that we built on top of from so long ago. It's like it's sort of become embedded in our culture and the way that we do everything. But to go back and to kill the password would be like trying to take a piece of the foundation out. So we have to put something else in there so it doesn't all topple over. But I agree with you on that. Let's kill those passwords and let's move on to better things.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. So my last question is, what has been the most exciting moment of your career so far?
I would say founding my own company. It doesn't get better than that. I mean, it's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of work, of course, but yeah, it's like I really get to do what I want to do, how I want to do it, and implement my vision and see it coming to life. That's like, doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, agreed. So this is your moment now to tell us how we can find out more about you and Crayonic.
Yeah, so you can just check our website, crayonic.com, and look around, or even better, write us. Write me. My email is pkolarov@crayonic.com, or it's actually right there on the website, probably somewhere. And ideally, anyone would tell us their feedback and what they like, what they don't like. That would be awesome. That's what we want.
Okay. Peter, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today, and I hope to have you on for another future episode. But thank you for coming on the show today, Peter.
Thank you.
And that's all the time we have for today, folks. If there are any other questions that you wanted me to ask that I didn't get to today, then make sure to write them in the comments below, and I'll find a way to get them answered. This has been another episode of Cardano and Coffee. I'm Mustafa, the host, and I hope you enjoyed the show, everybody. So long.